Yom Shekel O Shabbat, a time that is all Shabbat, Hayom that is ever Shalom, that will never, Yom Shekel O Shabbat.
As we begin our service this evening, we turn to a new selection for us, pages 176 and 177, Shomer Yisrael, the guardian, the watcher over Israel. Since we have the newer version of the Siddur, there's some things in there that weren't in the older version of the Siddur, and so we thought it might be a good idea to begin to introduce you to some of the other lovely selections that are part of the Siddur tradition. We'll do this responsively, as we have become accustomed to doing a number of these selections, as we ask our God, the one who is the guardian of Israel, to answer our prayers, to watch over us, and to be exactly that, the guardian for his people Israel. It begins, Shomer Yisrael, Shamor Sha'arit Yisrael. O guardian of Israel, preserve the remnant of Israel. Let them not perish your people Israel, the ones who affirm, Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel. Can you respond?
O guardian of unique people, preserve the remnant of unique people. Let them not perish. Proclaim your uniqueness. The Lord is our God, the Lord alone.
O guardian of a holy people, preserve the remnant of a holy people. Let them not perish, this holy people, the ones who repeat the threefold hallowing to the Holy One.
O you who listen to all prayers and entreaties for mercy, listen to this afflicted generation, for there is one to save you.
Avinu Malkeinu Ha'anun Va'anenu Ki Ein Vanu Ma'asim Osei Imanu Tzedakah V'Chesed V'Hoshienu. Join me. Our Father and King, be gracious to us and answer us, for we are not worthy. Deal benevolently and tenderly with us and save us. Our response is found on pages 76 to 79, paragraphs 6 and 7 of the Amidah, as we now thank our God, the one who does in fact answer our prayers, who is in fact our rock and our shield through every generation, not just generations past, but right on through into our generation. We rise, facing Jerusalem, the direction of the ark, as we allow these words to shape our response to the one who's truly the guardian of Israel, the one who hears and who answers our prayers. Thank you. For you, O Lord our God, are our ancestors' God for all eternity. And all the living shall thank you and praise your name faithfully as well, because you are the God of salvation and deliverance. Blessed are you, O Lord, whose name is good, and to whom it is pleasant to give thanks. You may be seated. As we kindle the Shabbat lights, we're reminded yet again, as we are every week, that Shabbat stands as the reminder of God's covenant commitment to us as his people. We are his people. He's committed himself to being our God and the one who watches over and protects us. Shabbat reminds us of that on a weekly basis.
Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kadashanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hoyot or l'goyim v'nata lanu Yeshua Meshachenu ha or la'olam. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who sanctified us by your commandments and commanded us to be a light of the nations and give us Yeshua, our Messiah, the light of the world. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Our Tehillah, the Brit Chadashah portion this evening, pages 136 and 137 at the bottom. We thank our God that he has in fact answered our prayers, utilizing the very language of the daily prayers of synagogues around the world for centuries. We remind ourselves that he has come, he has redeemed his people, he has done what he said he would do in fulfilling the promises, including raising up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, thereby sending to us his Messiah. The text begins, Baruch Adonai Elohei Yisrael, ki pakad et amo vayishlach bo pedut vayarem lanu kerem Yeshua b'veit David avdo. And we respond together.
Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, because he has come and has redeemed his people. He has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he said through his holy prophets of long ago. Salvation from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us, to show mercy to our fathers and to remember his holy covenant, the oath he swore to our father Abraham, to rescue us from the hand of our enemies and to enable us to serve him without fear, in holiness and righteousness before him all our days.
Because he truly has come and has redeemed his people, the horn of salvation, the one who he's raised up, sits on one of the heavenly thrones, as the sages, the rabbis, are holding vision. And we come into that throne room scene, so to speak, as we now respond on pages 40 and 41, acknowledging he's provided for us atonement relationship with himself, but he has also sealed that, guaranteed that we have that relationship with him forever. Pages 40 and 41 as Nathan leads, and we join him.
האלוהים אשר דיבר מקדם פעמים רבות ובדרכים רבות החכמות ביד הנביאים דיבר עלינו באחרית הימים האלה ביד הבן אשר שם ליורש חור ובידו גם עשה את העולמים וזוהר כבודו בצלם עצמותו ונושא כה בברו רע ורע ולקח to our fathers through the prophets at many times in various ways, but now in the end of days he has spoken to us by the Messiah, his Son, whom he appointed the heir of all things, and through whom he made the universe. The Son is the full radiance of God's glory, and the flawless manifestation of his reality. He sustains all things by his powerful word. After he made atonement for sins, he sat down in the place of authority, beside the majesty in heaven. True and firm, established and lasting, right and faithful, loved and treasured, desired and pleasant, feared and mighty, ordered and acceptable, good and beautiful is this word to us forever and ever.
Because of all that he has done for us, and because he is such a great and gracious God, we continue to respond to him in gratitude, in worship, and in praise, as we join now on Half Kaddish, pages 4 through 7.
Yikada Shomei Rabba.
Amen.
Be'alma dibra chirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayedekot bet Yisrael b'hagala u'bizman charif v'yimaru.
Amen. Yishmei Rabba Mevora Leolam Lo Melaya Yitbarak.
Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitbar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalahal shomei dekodesha
B'rihu.
Ela minko birchata v'shivata tushbekata v'nekemata de'amiran be'alma ve'imaru.
Amen.
Let his name be glorified and sanctified throughout the universe, which he had created according to his purpose. May he bring about the reign of his kingdom in your lifetime, in your days, and in the lifetime of all of the house of Israel, speedily, soon. And let all say,
Amen. Let his great name be praised forever and ever, eternally.
blessed and praised, glorified and exalted, extolled and honored, magnified and lauded be the name of the Holy. Although he is far greater than all blessings and hymns, praises, and songs which are offered in the world, and all say,
Amen.
As he has reached out to us, so we respond to him, and our response is, God, I will follow you fully. You are the King, whom I will in fact obey. That's the purpose of the Shema, as we now rise facing Jerusalem yet again, the direction of the ark. Joining on pages 34 to 39 as we make this our response to him this evening.
Shema
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Ehod Malkuto, Leolam Va'ed, Ve'ahavta, Et Adonai Elohecha, Be'kol Lavka, U'kol Nafshecha, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Blessed be he whose glorious kingdom These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Hide them as reminders on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates.
You may be seated. I'm giving you the wrong page numbers for the next selection. We're only off by one page. It's pages 162 and 163. Another new selection for us this evening. Yehi Kavod. Talking about the glory of our God, the one whom we have pledged to follow. But it also reminds us not only of his magnificence and his majesty, it also reminds us that he is the one who reaches out to his people, as the text concludes, by saving his people, by answering his people on the day that they called him. Yehi Kavod Adonai Le'olam. Together, may the glory of the Lord endure forever.
Let the Lord rejoice in his works. Blessed be the name of the Lord from now until forever. From the rising of the sun to its setting, the Lord's name is to be praised. The Lord is high above all nations. His glory is above the heavens. O Lord, your name endures forever. You are Lord of all generations. The Lord has established his throne in the heavens, and his kingdom rules over all. Let the heavens be glad, let the earth rejoice, and let them say among the nations, the Lord reigns, the Lord is king, the Lord was king, and the Lord shall be king forever and ever.
Adonai Melech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Imlo, Le'olam Vaed. And we continue. The heavens have perished out of his hand. The Lord thwarts the design of the heathen. He makes their thoughts of no effect.
Many are the thoughts in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's counsel that shall stand. The counsel of the Lord stands forever, the thoughts of his heart for all generations. For he spoke, and the world came into being. He commanded, and it stood firm. For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired to live there. For the Lord has called Jacob to himself, and Israel for his own treasure. For the Lord would not cast aside his people, nor will he abandon his inheritance. But he, being full of compassion, forgives iniquity, and does not destroy. Yes, often he turns his anger away, and does not stir up all his wrath. Save us, O Lord. O King, answer us on the day that we call.
We have the confidence that he will do exactly that, because as we have expressed, he is the one who's full of compassion, who forgives iniquity, who does not in fact destroy. And that's why we come before him as we do on pages 44 and 45 with Sur Yisrael. And we ask him, arise, O Lord, the help of Israel, deliver as you promised. Sur Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Ufdei, Kenumecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael. And together we ask,
Rock of Israel, arise to the help of Israel, and deliver as you promised Judah and Israel. Our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, Adonai Zebaoth is his name, the Holy One of Israel, Kadosh Yisrael. Blessed are you, O Lord, you have redeemed Israel.
Israel, the one who has redeemed, recovered, ransomed his people, is in fact the one who continually leads his people, as he did our ancestors in days of old. Vayi ben Soa reminds us of that as we rise yet again, facing the ark, and we join in pages 88 and 89.
Ibn Soharon, Vayomer Moshe, Kum Adonai Vayafuto Heva, Vayanusu Mesanecha, Mipanecha.
Ki mitzion zeisei Torah, ki Zion Tetzei Torah, Udavar Adonai, Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amod Yisrael, B'Kedushato.
And it came to pass, whenever the ark went forth, Moses would say, Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered. May those who hate you flee from before you.
For from Zion shall go forth the Torah, and the word of the Lord from out Jerusalem.
Blessed
Be he who in holiness gave the Torah to his people Israel. What he gave to us was a tremendous treasure. It was his commitment to us and his guidelines for us, and as such, we respond because the response is, of course, the appropriate thing, and that response is found on page 133.
The ark now unveils its treasure.
To our eyes and minds and hearts,
Inside the scroll of Torah stands.
it stands there with all its richness and wisdom.
As we listen, voices speak, voices of our ancestors.
Abraham,
Isaac and Jacob, Joseph and Moses.
O God, they bring us your instructions for us.
Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel and Leah and Miriam speak to us as well.
O God, they move us to respond to your promises to us.
We are grateful for your words, the words of Torah.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord calls.
We will hear your words that we may learn them, love them, and live them.
What does the Lord require of you? To fear him, love him, serve him, and walk in all his ways.
All the Lord has said, we will do.
Mi Shabarak Avotenu, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rabbi John. May he bless John. May he bless Diane. May he bless Jen. May he bless Kyle. And may he bless Eve, who have all come up to honor the God and Torah. May the Holy One bless them and their families and send blessing and prosperity on all the work of their hands. Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Rakam Laed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Ha'olam אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים, ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני, נותן התורה.
Amen.
Bless the Lord who is blessed.
Bless the Lord who is blessed forever and ever.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has chose us from all peoples and gave to us the Torah. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah.
ויקץ הענן את אוהל מועד וכבוד אדוני מלא את המשכן ולא יכול משה לבוא אל אוהל מועד כי שקן עליו הענן וכבוד אדוני מלא את המשכן ופעלות הענן מועד מעל המשכן יישאו בני ישראל בקהל המשיחם ואם לא יעלה הענן ולא יישאו עד יום העלותו כי ענן אדוני אל המשכן יומם באש תהיה לילה בו לעיני כל בית ישראל בכל מעשיהם.
You may be seated.
And the cloud enveloped the tent, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. But Moses couldn't go into the tent when the cloud filled it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And when the cloud came up, rose above, or rose up from the tabernacle, the people of Israel moved for all their wanderings or travels throughout the duration. And if the cloud did not rise up, then the people did not move until the day that the cloud did. And the cloud of God was over the tabernacle all the days, and at night, and fire came at night to the cloud. And all of the people of Israel could see it for the whole time they were traveling. I'm a little biased. I've always been fond of this portion. It was my bat mitzvah portion. But aside, I will take guesses for how many years ago that was. It's a nice round number, though. But I will say that I always thought this passage was really cool because this whole cloud imagery, it's beautiful, very powerful. If you've ever seen an artist's rendition of it, some of them are just stunning. And the cloud moved and the people moved, and the cloud stayed and the people stayed. And nobody had to worry about where they were going or what direction to head or how they were going to deal with their day. They had this giant kind of GPS in the sky above them. And there's all kinds of wonderful commentaries about following the cloud and the direction it gave. But the part that I always really liked was at night there was fire in the cloud. Not to say that all of a sudden there was this giant burning ball of gaseous flames in the sky. I kind of like to envision it like it had a glow to it, turned into like a nightlight. And if you think about what a nightlight does for kids or even for adults, it provides a sense of comfort, a sense of security when there's uncertainty or fear around you. It kind of helps to dispel that fear of the dark. Now, I've never been camping. My mother, you might have heard her say, Jews don't camp. Been there, done that for 40 years. And here we're right in the middle of that story. But I have been to this desert where they were wandering, and even today, still, there's vast, undeveloped areas. It's very, very dark. It's very still and very quiet. There's no wind rushing through the trees. You might hear something come out of the ground and scurry around. But otherwise, I could see how it would be a very, very scary place in the dead of night. So they had the cloud with the fire in it, also to keep them warm too, even if it got too cold. Let me also, though, from an outside perspective, vast, dark, undeveloped spaces, you would have been able to see the fire in the cloud from great distances, so that any threat off in the distance would have seen this majestic thing, and it would have, in a way, protected the people of Israel. There have been plenty of discussions about how now we are all tabernacles. We're all tabernacles of God. We're all God's mobile homes, if you want to look at it that way. So if you think of yourself as a tabernacle, I know that I personally take great comfort, even though I can't see it, even though there is no literal cloud above me. I take great comfort myself in knowing that not only is there someone guiding me during the day, but there's a sense of security and comfort then at night.
I wish I had a nightlight. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lahanu Torah temet v'chai holam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who gave to us the Torah of truth and life everlasting, planted in our midst. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah.
Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah. Those words ring true because we know he actually did deliver these words to us as our ancestors experienced them in days gone by. And now we get to remind ourselves and affirm that very thing as we now rise and respond to our God. The Zohar Torah, pages 98 and 99, transliteration, if you should need it, is page 95.
V'zot Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai be'ad Moshe.
This is the Torah which God placed before the children of Israel. It is in accord with the Lord's command by the hand of Moses.
You may be seated.
I'll be reading from Numbers 19, verses 1 through 10. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Here is another of my laws. Tell the people of Israel to bring you a red heifer without defect, one that has never been yoked. Give her to Eleazar, the priest, and he shall take her outside the camp, and someone shall kill her as he watches. Eleazar shall take some of her blood upon his finger and sprinkle it 7 times toward the front of the tabernacle. Then someone shall burn the heifer as he watches, her hide, meat, blood, and dung. Eleazar shall take cedar wood and hyssop branches and scarlet thread and throw them into the burning pile. Then he must wash his clothes and bathe, and afterwards return to the camp and be ceremonially defiled until the evening. And the one who burns the animal must wash his clothes and bathe, and he too shall be defiled until evening. Then someone who is not ceremonially defiled shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and place them in some purified place outside the camp, where they shall be kept for the people of Israel as a source of water for the purification ceremonies, for removal of sin. And the one who gathers up the ashes of the heifer must wash his clothes and be defiled until evening. This is a permanent law for the benefit of the people of Israel and any foreigners living among them.
I'll be reading from Psalm 13, verses 1 through 4. How long will you forget me, Lord? Forever? How long will you look the other way when I am in need? How long must I be hiding daily anguish in my heart? How long shall my enemy have the upper hand? Answer me, O Lord my God. Give me light in my darkness, lest I die. Don't let my enemies say, we have conquered him. Don't let them gloat that I am down.
When God speaks, he intends his words to seep into our lives, to saturate our lives, to transform our lives. As a reminder that, we respond with Etz Chaim, pages 96 and 97.
Etz Chaim hi lama chazikim ba v'totecha meushan derakeha darakei noam v'kol tibotecha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Kadesh Amenu kekedem. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva Kadesh Amenu kekedem. Tree of life it is to those who take hold of it, and happy are those who support it. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Turn us, Lord, to you, and let us return. Renew our days as of old.
Uvnako Yomar reminds us that not only did God move among our ancestors, our people, we had the privilege of being in his presence, and we invite that presence as well now so that we can enter into it as we respond on pages 98 and 99. Uvnako Yomar. Please rise.
Uvniko Yomar, Shuva Adonai Rivavot, Alfei Yisrael. When the ark rested, Moses would say, Return, O Lord, to the myriads of Israel's families.
Arise, O Lord, to your resting place, you and your mighty ark. Clothe your priests with righteousness. May those who experience your faithful love shout for joy. For the sake of your servant David, don't delay the return of your Messiah.
I give you good instruction. Do not forsake my Torah.
At the outset, let me answer two pressing questions so it won't bother you for the rest of the drash. Yes, the tie is green. And there are shamrocks on the sides. Tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. And since it's already evening and the sun has gone down in the Jewish calendar, happy St. Patrick's Day. And if you think that's out of place, in the 50s, the Lord Mayor of Dublin was a man by the name of Briscoe, who was a Jew. And the first president of Israel, Chaim Herzog, was Irish. As I've said to you many times before, give us a reason to celebrate or have a holiday. You'll find it. The tie also has baseball characters on it. It goes, welcome to spring training, and now you've got the whole story. Now we've cleared all the decks to go ahead and get to what we need to. About 2 weeks ago, no, not about 2, exactly 2 weeks ago, I was having lunch with Dr. Tom Tribblehorn, whom you've heard from this particular Bima before. And over lunch, he told me a story. He told me that just the night before, so 2 weeks ago, he had officiated at a funeral, the funeral of a 19-year-old girl. And here's what had happened. She had gone to the dentist for a routine root canal. I stopped him at that point and I said, and since when was a root canal routine? For the dentist perhaps, but not for the person on the other side of the drill. But anyhow, a few days later, it got infected. When she was re-examined, they discovered how serious this infection was. And so they rushed her to the emergency room. And there they learned that the infection had affected her brain. Shortly afterwards, she went into a coma. Now, the congregational community was praying for her and the family through the whole ordeal. But she never came out of the coma. And soon she was dead at 19. Now, I'm sure her family and her community felt like asking, and probably some of them did in fact ask, God, are you out there somewhere? And I'm sure during and after the ordeal, they felt a lot like the psalmist, as Diane read it for us, who cried out, how long will you forget me, Lord? Forever? How long will you look the other way when I am in need? How long must I be hiding daily the anguish that is in my heart? Answer me, O Lord. Give me light in my darkness. And I would guess that at one time or other, perhaps even now, we've all felt something like this. Rabbi David Wolpe is a very well-known rabbi on the West Coast, and he can understand just this kind of situation. You see, through his life, he's encountered much tragedy and the mystery that surrounds life. He has seen his mother struggle for 30 years with a stroke that left her unable to speak. His wife survived a rare cancer after the birth of their daughter. And then, Wolpe developed a brain tumor. 4 years after the tumor was removed, he was stricken with an unrelated, incurable form of lymphoma, which is, however, now in remission. Now, in the past dozen or so years, he's become a nationally known leader at Sinai Temple in Beverly Hills, a conservative synagogue in LA. He has taught on theology, he's taught on religion, he's taught on science at the university, at UCLA. Don't need to spell the whole thing out, I trust. Wolpe has incontestable faith in question. And you could probably understand why. Questioning about science, questioning about history, questioning about evil, about tragedy, about mystery, and most of all about God. But as he puts it, these are all, and I quote him, all questions that could open doors. But he says, as he lay sidelined by chemotherapy, a question emerged in his mind. To quote him again, wow, I'm facing mortality. Is there something more I really need to address? And after he was done, you know what he did? He wrote a book that we use in the apologetics class called Why Faith Matters. And in it he addresses what he considers are two great threats that have troubled him in recent years. The one is that the only choices on religion in our society appear to be cold denial or flaming fanaticism, to use his terms. And he tells us that he was infuriated by a wave of best-selling books by atheists, including Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, and Richard Dawkins, some of the best-known names, all of which were glibly sure that God does not exist and that faith is for fools. And so the rabbi writes, what's so appalling is the idea that there is no mystery that won't yet be solved. That if we don't know it all yet, we someday will, end quote. And the other, he points out, is the threat of violent religious fundamentalism that turns belief into a plague. That's a good term, by the way, for as we approach the Passover season. I hadn't even thought of it till just now. I'll turn the brain back off. And yet he says, and I'm quoting, the tremendous good that is done by faith in this world is sometimes overlooked or belittled. But most of those who are able to stand up to tyranny and hatred feel that they do so precisely because they are empowered by a force beyond themselves. And so he writes. And then he continues. Faith is all about relationships. It's 85% of the day-to-day of life. Proving the Bible is not my point, he says. To have questions is not the opposite of faith. Questions assume faith. They assume there is a God to ask, why? End quote. And then he has this very interesting observation, and I quote from his book now. In our time, from this tiny corner of the world, a fraction of the known universe, clever men deduce that there is no God. Others among us, perhaps less clever but no less clear, feel certain that there is, and that our lives are immeasurably better for believing it. Faith is both an achievement and a gift. It's an achievement of seeking, of questioning, of yearning, reasoning, hoping, and it is a gift of God who has fashioned this world, whose goodness sustains it, and whose teachings could save it if only we, believers and deniers both, would listen, end quote. And I said to myself, very well put. Sometimes a rabbi has something important to say. Thank you. Now that kind of questioning is good. But another kind of questioning can lead to trouble. And it did exactly that for Israel in last week's Parsha. You'll remember it as the incident of the golden calf. The people, Exodus 32 reads, saw that Moses had delayed in descending down the mountain. And the people gathered around Aaron and said to him, rise up, make for us gods that will go before us. For this man Moses, who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we don't know what's become of him. In this very famous passage, the Israelites grew impatient, waiting for Moses to come down from the mountain, where he was meeting with God. In their waiting, they grew curious and frustrated. If you read the text carefully, if you listen to it carefully, in effect, they asked not only, where is Moses, but they also asked, where is God? And here's what's interesting that the story illustrates for us. Often when we can't find God, we tend to find or to make a substitute for God. And you'll remember the text says, they fashioned the calf and they said, this is your God, O Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt. It seems as though the growing frustration of the people of Israel caused them to look for a replacement for God. Not a really good idea, as they found out, because it comes with built-in consequences. Jack was on the operating table awaiting surgery. He had insisted that his son David, a very successful surgeon, perform the operation. Now, as Jack was about to get the anesthesia, he asked to speak to his son. Yes, Dad, what is it? David asked. He responded, don't be nervous, son. Do your best. Oh, and by the way, just remember, if it doesn't go well, if something happens to me, your mother is going to come and live with you and with your wife. There are consequences to any of our actions as well as our decisions, as Israel found out. But back to our story, the golden calf and its aftermath. And so we read, as we move on into our section for this week, despite the outrageous behavior of Israel and God are still together. There could be no behavior more outrageous than what took place with the golden calf. And yet Israel and God are still together. And the building of the Mishkan continues. And as you heard it read, it got concluded. Now please remember what we've discussed and discovered through not just the weeks but the months. The Sinai experience, as our people stood before God, was in effect, they were standing under a chuppah. It was a wedding ceremony. The Mishkan then, in this context, and properly understood, was to be their future home together, the tabernacle. Then along comes the golden calf. Major unfaithfulness. A major obstacle. In fact, in last week's text, here's what God said. Exodus chapter 33, verse 3. He's describing the land into which they will end up, or in which they will end up, to which they are going. He says it's a land flowing with milk and honey. You're familiar with the terminology. But I will not travel among you, for you are a stubborn, unruly people, and I would be tempted to destroy you along the way. If I were among you for even a moment, I would exterminate you. Yeah, that's serious stuff. And yet, verses 3 to 5 of chapter 33 yield to verse 14 of chapter 33, which is rather amazing. Moses interjects and the Lord replies and he says, I myself will go with you and I will give you success. Amazing. Radical. And so the home building continues and in fact is completed in tonight's Parsha. And as you heard read and elaborated on so beautifully, God moves in, which means it's honeymoon time in the wilderness for 40 years. That's some honeymoon. Now, the construction and the inauguration of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, that we've been following now for the past month, comes to an end, as does the book of Exodus with the text for this evening. Now, as you noticed as I was finding the place, this is not a single portion, but it's a double portion. So we were traveling through a whole lot of chapters to get to the end of the reading for tonight. Curiously, the double portion is enveloped, enclosed by, encapsulated at each end, pick a term here, by references and allusions to Shabbat at the outset, as well as inferences about it at its close. The first portion of the double portion begins right away with what may seem to be a seemingly superfluous, pardon me while I straighten my tongue, a seemingly superfluous repetition of the laws of Sabbath, as it says, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day shall be sacred, a Sabbath of Sabbaths to the Lord, Exodus 35:2. Let me suggest that subtly, perhaps, this passage draws an analogy between the Mishkan and Shabbat, which is why the sages of old deduced that the 39 categories of work that are prohibited on Shabbat are precisely those that are integral to the building of the Mishkan. Then, on the closing end of the second of the finale of the second in the double portion, Pekudei, you'll find that it bears a striking similarity to the completion of an earlier and equally amazing enterprise, namely the creation of the world. I'm going to compare Exodus 39:32 with Genesis 1:31. Exodus 39, the Mishkan story. All the work of the tabernacle and the tent of meeting was completed. The creation story. The heavens and the earth and everything else within them were completed. Mishkan story. Moses completed Vayachel, all the work, Melacha. Creation story. On the seventh day, God completed Vayachel, the work, Melacha, he had done. Mishkan story. Moses viewed Vayar, all the work. Creation story. God viewed Vayar, all that he had done, and it was very good. The Mishkan story, and Moses blessed them. The creation story. God blessed the seventh day and consecrated it. Coincidence? Not highly likely, since the same dude wrote both texts. He had not forgotten what he had written in a book earlier. The point apparently is to picture the Mishkan as a microcosm of the universe, of the as a world in miniature. And just as the universe embodies a divine design, and interestingly one that's handed over to us to preserve it, Genesis 2, so the divine design of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, was delegated to the priest, Leviticus 22, to preserve it. The Shabbat laws, however, are not the only intrusion on this narrative sequence of the Mishkan. Whereas the detailed plans of the Mishkan and its furnishing occupy the portions from 2 and 3 weeks ago, and whereas the implementation of that takes up our current portions, the double portion, the intervening portion, last week's portion, is devoted primarily to this incident of the golden calf. And notice the ordering of the text. After they fall prey to the misplaced symbolism of the golden calf, however, God reminded the people of the Shabbat, emphasizing Exodus 31:16 and 17, Veshamru, emphasizing its value, its role as an eternal sign between me and the children of Israel forever. In other words, friends, the Shabbat is the wedding ring. And so to speak, it's the reminder and the guarantee of the marriage relationship, which then gets culminated when the home is finally built. But just how can we be sure that the relationship remains and will in fact continue to remain intact? Well, the text told you. God moves into our bridal home. And wow, does he ever move in? You heard it read. The cloud, the presence of God, filled that place so much so that even Moses couldn't get in there. Moreover, as that text concluded, he personally guides us through all of our journeys. When the cloud moved, the people moved. When the cloud didn't move, the people didn't move, until it moved, and then they moved. And the text says literally, throughout all their journeys, God personally guides. He is there with us. In other words, regardless. You wanted me to say more? No. He's there with us, regardless. Even though we might not always be conscious of him, even if we might not see his hand directly at work in our lives or our circumstances. Remember last week. How can you forget? Purim. God is not mentioned anywhere in the text. He's the God who seems absent, and yet he's very much there. By the way, there's a further reassurance that's hinted at by the additional parsha for tonight. That's the text that Jenny read, Numbers chapter 19. A very intriguing text. A text that people have some of the strangest interpretations of. To be in keeping with the theme for tonight, the interpretations are from out of left field. Or they're not even in the right ballpark. It's the red heifer and the ashes of the red heifer. It has to do with the provision for the ceremonial or the ritual cleanness of those who somehow become defiled. And what's interesting is in Numbers chapter 19, verse 9, next to the last verse that was read, it says, the ceremony of the ashes of the red heifer and the cleansing thereof was to take place outside the camp. So what? Well, the so what is this? The author of the book of Hebrews, in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 13 says, let us go to him, where? Outside the camp. Who's the him? Yeshua the Messiah. In other words, he's the one who stands as a guarantor behind the guarantee that in fact does guarantee a guaranteed relationship with our God forever. And that's about how strongly the Hebrew makes it. And Shabbat, of course, is the wedding ring that symbolizes it. He's the one who made it possible. He's the one who secures the possibility and turns it into reality. And he's also the one who said, like God said in our portion tonight that you've read and explained, like God said in that amazing text after he said, I'm not going to go with you, and then said, yes, I will go with you. He is the one who, like God said in those texts, as he said farewell to his followers, he says, all authority in heaven and earth is vested in me. And with that authority, I send you on your journeys. Sounds like the journeys here, doesn't it? Intentionally so. And he says, and I am with you always. And here the text is very interesting. It says both, till the end of time and to the ends of the earth. Now I want to get back to where we began. Rabbi Wolpe in his book. Wolpe points out that the Bible is packed with great questions from the very outset. Job asked concerning God, where are you? Wolpe says that faith is how you answer. You find your place, as he says, listen to this, in relation to other people, to yourself, and to the world. You can't find yourself alone because faith is not in solitude. It requires others. It requires you to think that you matter, and it is worthless if it doesn't help you make God's world better. Before I go back to Wolpe one more time. For many years, one of our favorite TV programs was the series Numbers. It says something about one of my idiosyncrasies. But on the other hand, Patrice loved it as well. So, what can I say? The main character there, Dan, toward the end of the series began to search for God. And being Jewish, he ended up in the right place, in a synagogue. And in one of the final episodes, he said, I don't know much about God. But wherever God is, it's how we are there for each other. End quote. And I said, nicely said, Dan. I don't know much about God, but wherever God is, it's how we are there for each other. And Wolpe is saying the same thing. The rabbi's vision of prayer is interesting as well, and I quote him again as we conclude. It is you leaping up. It is the constant possibility that you can experience God's presence, to feel God powerfully, always open and available to those who open themselves to him, end quote. And when asked what his own prayer was through the brain surgery, through the cancer treatment, he said this is what it was. God, stay close. God, stay close. That's your opportunity. Take advantage of it. Even when he seems to be far away and totally absent. Take the next minute or so for a time of reflection and response and quiet. God has promised to be our rock, our shield through all of our generations, through every generation, not just for our ancestors, but for us as well, and for those who follow us. By the way, tonight you got a demonstration of God's faithfulness through the generations. You got to hear Eve. I think you just got to hear me. And as Eve began, that voice protesting from the back was, of course, Gideon. 3 generations strong. And the promise lasts on into the generations to follow us. And as we anticipate the fulfillment of that promise, we look forward to the time when the Messiah returns and the world is perfected under his rule, the rule of the Lord Almighty. We stand. We join on pages 102 to 107 as we anticipate that time in confidence, facing Jerusalem, the place to which he will return. The Elaine is found on pages 102 to 107. Aleinu Shabbat Hakol Latein Gedula Letzer Bereshit. Atzanu Kegohei Ha'aratzot. V'lo Samanu Kimishpahot Ha'adamah. Shelo Sam Kalkeinu Kahem. V'gor Aleinu Kechal Hamonam. V'nachnu Korim. U'mishtagavim U'modim. Lifnei Melech Malkei HaMelachim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shahu Notei Shamayim V'yoser Haaretz. U'moshav Yikaro B'Shamayim B'Ma'al. Ushkidadu zo V'gavhei Meromim. Hu Eloheinu Eino and Malkeinu Efesulato Kakatuv B'Torato Vayadata Hayom V'Hoshevata Elivaveka Ki Adonai Hu HaElohim Hashamayim Mima'al V'al Haaretz Mitakat Eino. It is incumbent upon us to praise the Master of all, to exalt the Creator of the world, for He has made us distinct from the nations and unique among the families of the earth. Our destiny is not like theirs, our calling is our task. We bow down and acknowledge before the King of Kings that there is none like Him, for He stretched forth the heavens like a tent and established the earth. Truly there is none like our Lord and King. As the Torah says, you shall know this day and reflect in your heart that it is the Lord who is God in the heavens above and on the earth beneath. There is none else. We hope, O Lord our God, to soon behold your majestic glory, when all abominations shall be removed and all false gods shall be put an end. Then shall the world be perfected under the rule of the Lord Almighty, and all mankind shall call upon your name. For to you every knee must bow, and every tongue declare that you are God. Reign over us soon and forever. May the kingdom of David's greater Son be established forever. For then shall the words be fulfilled. The Lord shall be king forever, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. On that day the Lord shall be one, and his name one. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai, Melech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad. Ushmo echad.
Yom Shekulo Shabbat, a time that is all Shabbat, Hayom that is ever Shalom, that will never, Yom Shekulo Shabbat.